Good evening to all of you. It gives me great pleasure to welcome His Excellency Daniel Carmon, the Ambassador of Israel to India, all of you. Before I go further, could I request all mobile phones to be silent mode, preferably switched off mode, because it does disturb the flow of the conversations. Israel, the first visit at this level, Prime Ministers from India. We're also celebrating 25 years of the exchange of ambassadors. It is a special year for us. In contentious neighborhoods, we have our own tensions, we have our own solutions, but we have over the years developed a very fine partnership. Its partnership actually started long ago, but it has picked up substantially since the 90s and the year 2000 particularly. It has picked up tremendously, but I'll not go into that at this stage. The ambassador will be doing so. Mr. Carmon was born in Tel Aviv, has studied in Jerusalem, Istanbul and Paris. Like all Israeli, went to the IDF, where he served for 3 years as a paratrooper. From 70 to the Yom Kippur War, I see. He studied at the Hebrew University, joined the Foreign Service in 73, was a member of the Israeli delegation of the Camp David talks in 1978. He worked in the private sector and then returned to the Foreign Office, where he served at Jerusalem. He was also the Deputy Permanent Representative of the United Nations between the year 2005 to 10. And since July 2014, he has been serving as the ambassador to India. Many of us have heard him before at different forums, but we thought at this moment of time, looking at how the two countries have been working together, and hopefully will work together and stronger. And therefore, precisely for this reason that we organized the event today, I would now request Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwala to come and address us first.
His Excellency Ambassador, Mr. Carmon, Shakti ji, my dear friend Anirban, other dignitaries and friends. As you all know that in next 8 to 10 weeks' time, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, would be visiting Israel. There are already some dates being talked about in the media, even though there is no official announcement. But the kind of, I would not call it a hype, but kind of momentum that is being picked up, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen very soon. So we thought that we should start talking about what has happened in last 25 years and how this relationship is likely to be built in the future. And there cannot be a better person than the ambassador himself, because he has been a part of this momentum being built since he has been here in July 2014, which has coincided with the change of regime in India, and I won't call it as a coincidence. It is more a design from and efforts from both the sides that I know few people don't like this term, but Israel-India relationship is coming out of shell, and we are being talked very openly and proudly. As a part of the political movement I am coming from, BJP, we were never shy of our relationship with Israel. In fact, our previous Prime Minister, Mr. Vajpayee, during his regime, that Israeli Prime Minister visited India, and then that reciprocal visit, it took 10 years, more than 10 years to happen. And again, that was not an accident, but that was a design, which is a little bit sad from our side. So we are trying to correct some of the errors, but the friendship is going beyond that. And you will feel it more if you go to Israel. And I was fortunate enough to visit that country in last 2 months twice, and I could see the kind of enthusiasm there it is being built up, not only in the official channels, but also in the businesses and also a great diaspora. When we talk about our relationship, mostly we talk about the defense cooperation, cybersecurity, and anyway these deals are generally remained little bit above the, out of the radar. And when it comes to Israel, it's still, there is another layer of cover to shield it from the public domain. But India-Israel relationship, I think, is much beyond this defense cooperation and cybersecurity. We have a great relationship in the terms of water conservation. We are learning a lot from them in terms of agriculture. Israel also is now proudly considering it, claiming itself as a startup nation, and how the Israel startup innovation community is growing rapidly, and there is a lot of scope for the cooperation between these two. And last but not least is the diaspora. Many of you would be surprised to know that Indian Jews comprise almost 60 to 70,000 right now, who are migrated to Israel since last few decades, and they are still very strong. They still have deep affection for India. In my last trip, I had a discussion with some of them, and then, as usual, normal practice, I started talking in English, and another fellow has started talking in English. So one of the prominent Jew members stood up and he said, "Why are you talking in English? We all understand Hindi." So I have met many people who know very well Hebrew, of course, but also they know very equally good Marathi or Hindi, but they are not fluent in English. And that is something very surprising, a pleasant surprise to us. There is a Marathi magazine that is printed in Israel named My Boli, and they are going to have a convention very soon. So a lot of such stories, you feel that we are almost like meeting a lost brother after a long gap. So it was a very heartening moment for me. At the end, I would conclude by telling you a small story, little on a lighter note. I met the president of the diamond trading community there, Diamond Traders Association, which is they called Bulls. A huge multi-storied 3-tower building with more than 1,000 traders trading diamonds there. And then there are 30 Gujarati families still doing, which are dominating the business. That's a separate story. But I met the president of the diamond trading Bulls, and he was very enthusiastic when to see that Prime Minister Modi is coming, and he said he would like to invite Prime Minister Modi to come and visit their trading center. But then at the end, what he said was most significant, and I will conclude by saying by his remark. At the end, he said, "Okay, Mr. Vijay, at the end, I want to suggest you something. Please trace the ancestry of Mr. Modi. I am sure he is Jew." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vijayji. I now request His Excellency Ambassador David Carmon to speak to us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening to this wonderful crowd of friends, some of whom I'm so glad to meet again, and some new friends, many new friends of the embassy, new friends of Israel, and especially new friends of India and Israel relations. I want to say that every time I come into this building and all what this building signifies and symbolizes historically, what it symbolizes to Israel, to India, the fact that it is very near Tin Murti, and Tin Murti also has a lot to do with Haifa, with history, with our joint history. Every time I come here, I really feel the pounding of history, and I really want to thank the Syama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation and the center and the museum, the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library for hosting this, for initiating this. I was debating with myself if I should come with a speech, a orderly speech and read out, and I decided that this is not the case. This is not what I would like to do. I really want to have and I hope it's okay, an interaction with you. I would like to share with you in the most frank way how I, as a diplomat, proudly representing my country, how do I see this very unique and important facet of international relations, important, I guess, to both countries. Very important for my country, I can say it out loud. Important because of various angles and considerations. Important not only to governments, but important to all the puzzle which forms the fabric of societies of our respective countries. And I would like to start, as Vijay has said something from his experience, from his recent experience, I'd like to tell you why personally did I decide that my next post would be India. It's a personal account, and I think it symbolizes part of how we who represent Israel in India feel being part of something that really makes a difference. And I have to tell you that I would suggest to all my friends within the Israeli Foreign Service to come and feel and understand what I'm talking about, because only while being here you can feel the importance of the mission that we fulfill here. In my previous post, I was a member of the Israeli delegation to the UN in New York, and we had I think we had a few hours together. You just came, I was on my way out. During that time, I learned the importance of those bodies in not only bringing political resolutions, in not only being part of the dynamics of votes, although this is very important, but also taking the discipline, taking the cluster of what is called development, on the one hand, in the world, which is the international fora like UN world, but also in the bilateral relationship between countries. And knowing that, and with this knowledge, I did come back to Israel after New York, and I decided that my next post would be international development cooperation, where we could share together with our friends the knowledge and the capacity and the technology that Israel has in some areas that are very far away from international politics, but they are part of international relations and international politics and diplomacy, and they are a new kind of diplomacy, if I'd like to put it in a blunt way. And then I was the head of our international development cooperation called Mashav, where for the last 60 years, 10 years after independence, in the last 60 years, we have been sharing with the world what we know, what we have been doing as a development laboratory back home in Israel. And I came to visit India. I came to visit my predecessor, Alon Ushpiz. I'm sure you know him. He was a great ambassador who served here before me. And I came to the inauguration of a Center of Excellence in Haryana. I saw the center, I saw the farmers, I saw the chief minister, I saw the politicians, I saw the laymen, thousands of people who came to the inauguration. It's a ceremony, but it's a ceremony with a continuation, which means that you don't only inaugurate a center, you also start working on fruits and vegetables, not on documents and votes and papers, which are important by themselves. And then I saw the impact of the activity of India and Israel together working on a center of excellence in agriculture, bearing fruits, benefiting the farmers, the families, maybe bringing more income to the families because you bring new technology and new irrigation systems and new covered technology, covered agriculture, etc., etc. And then the next thing that I asked, and it wasn't a very polite question, I asked my predecessor, when is your term up? And he said, in 1 year. Why? I said, because I'm going to replace you. Seeing the impact of this project. And I did. So I succeeded in this, and I have to tell you, and the issue is not my success or not, the issue is the content of what we are doing together, which goes as a very fine line in a very important and basic element of the relations between India and Israel, and I'll come to that in a minute. But I'd like to start with a little, or I'd like to continue with a little quiz, and I would like to tell you about a certain country that I think you know very well. A country with ancient people creating a modern democracy. A country established in the 40s, ending British rule. A country which has its problems on its borders, some unfriendly countries on its borders. A country faced with water and agricultural challenges. A country which is a mosaic of people, religious and cultures, including, you mentioned, diaspora, has its diasporas, a country that is encouraging pluralism, diversification, color, a country with vibrant politics and vibrant parliament. Sorry, I'm talking about one country, of course, not. And I'm asking you if this is familiar to you, if this country is familiar to you, and I'm sure that while I was asking those questions with very obvious answers, you all understood that I was talking not about one country, but about two countries. So different, but yet there are characteristics that transcends both of us. We are in different regions. We have different, we come from different backgrounds. People who are not familiar with the content of what we do together are really asking the right question, but what makes the bond between India and Israel? And it's not very difficult and not very complicated to explain, but it doesn't look like a natural bond, but it is. It is a natural bond, and I think that during all those years we have shown that this is the case. This is the case for me as an Israeli diplomat. This is the case for me as a diplomat who looks at a new kind of diplomacy, and all those who are familiar with diplomacy know very well that diplomacy is not the traditional diplomacy anymore. Traditional diplomacy is definitely there, but we have added, or our predecessors and ourselves are adding new elements, diplomacy is not between governments only anymore. We are the vehicle. We are the bearers of the message, but you can do everything and be in some way or another a diplomat. I met this morning a couple of youngsters, young people, very nice and enthusiastic people who came to India to do business in innovation, water, agriculture, and they told me about what they're doing in Uttarakhand. And when I asked them one more question which goes beyond the regular conversation, and why exactly are you doing? Why are you doing that? So they said, of course, there is a business side of it, but we feel that we are contributing to this great thing that is called India-Israel relations, because people in Uttarakhand will be benefiting, because we know that we, Mr. Ambassador, we are contributing to something that is bigger. So diplomacy is not only about foreign ministries anymore, and it has to do with a large puzzle of society, of academia, of educational institutions, of research foundations, of parliamentarians, of course, business, security and defense establishments, etc., etc., etc. And I'm very proud to be, during those years specifically, in this particular country serving Israel, and if I can say, serving Israel and India together, because I'm representing Israel here. Sometimes I feel, although you have a wonderful ambassador in Israel, a really great person, Pavan Kapoor, sometimes I have to explain to Israel, so I feel sometimes that I'm also... a couple of weeks ago, 10 days ago, we celebrated a very important Jewish holiday, Passover, an 8-day holiday, which marks the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt, where it was enslaved, back to its ancient homeland in Israel, or in what was called Palestine at the time. And one of the nicest things in the ceremony, we have a big dinner. One of the nicest things during the dinner is a question that our youngest is asking, and the question is, why is tonight different from all other nights? And I'm trying to say, or to see, or together with you, and I'll be very glad to elaborate during the questions and answers part of this evening, why is this year, or why is this period of time so different from other times? Did we start the embetterment of relations a week ago, or a year ago, or in May 2014, or before that? Did we? Why are we in such a juncture in our relations that makes it so attractive or visible? And what happened? What evolved in this very unique relationship? And it is a unique relationship, and there's no doubt about it. In this very special relationship, because it did not start the way usual bilateral relations start, and I don't have to explain to this audience why and how did the relations transcend from a very low-key, low-volume, in the shell, as you said, under the carpet, as some others say, and there are even more special ways to describe that. What happened, and why are we definitely during those years in a very, very special period? And I think that one of the most important elements, and I've said it more than once, and there's no reason on the contrary not to flag it again, the relations that have evolved during all those years, because of the fact that we're not visible, had some impediments and limitations. You could not talk openly about some of the elements of the relationship, and I'm not talking about defense. I mean, I am talking about defense, because the fact that we had so many things in defense gave us the luxury to do things almost undercover, because that's the nature of defense relationship. And it was okay. It wasn't ideal. It was fine. It was, if I may say, we had a price tag that we had to pay during all those years because for political reasons it was low-key, low volume. The defense relationship was going on very well and low volume, and it was very limited. I mean, you did not or could not use the potential of what we can do together, and we are now in a process which could take quite a lot of time, a process of not only getting out of the shell, not only speaking about it, not only highlighting it, not only having so many important visits, and the visit by the Prime Minister will definitely be a peak in this, but there will be more peaks afterwards, without of course, underestimating at all the visit. All this visibility is dynamics by itself, and it will bring more and more very strong message to all those who maybe were sort of prudent and cautious to be part of getting out of the shelf, to do more between us, and each one has his role, if I can say, or each one has his profession, has its counterparts, and I feel it physically. I feel it by the number of people who go to Israel. I feel it by the interest that the Indian society and the various facets of India, and I feel it because I hear the Israeli side of it. And as you'd say, the hundreds or thousands of Indians who go every year to Israel for any kind of good reason, from tourism to pilgrimage to doing business to scout for startups, to do defense work, and we won't talk about it, to prepare for visits, delegations, exhibitions on water, on agriculture, on technology. I know that those people who go to Israel come back enchanted because of what they see, because what they see is not what they thought they would see, because the way they are received, and nowadays, if I'm wrong, please tell me, nowadays Indians are received in Israel like heroes. Do I exaggerate a little bit? And vice versa. I mean, I know the Israelis who come here, and the feeling is the same, and something very, very, very special is happening between us. It's on the personal level, it's on the institutional level, it's on the governmental level. I feel the opening of doors here in this town. I feel the opening of doors in the states that we visit. And if you would ask me about numbers, do the numbers correspond to what I'm saying, to the very optimistic pictures that I'm portraying to you? I would say this also takes time. So you didn't ask me, so I did not really answer, but yes, there are areas that the potential has not been fulfilled yet, but we are in a very important and dynamic and positive trend of strengthening what we are doing, what we have been doing together. What happens this year is also, it's not a coincidence, it's 25 years of diplomatic relations. It's a good time to reflect on our achievements. It's a good time to think about the next 25 years. It's a good symbolic time, but it's much more than symbolic, because by coincidence or not by coincidence, those last 3 years, more or less, has seen much more I would say, back and forth activity between our countries, and this has nothing to do with our predecessors. And our predecessors, during all those 25 years, did a lot for the relations between India and Israel. The centers of excellence that I talked to you about, I talked about one center of excellence, but the centers of excellence in agriculture that are spread all over India, part of the 40 that we are going to build, not we, India and Israel are building centers of excellence in agriculture, which are centers for demonstration and for training and for using the technology and the experience of both countries. Those centers are one facet of development and one facet of what we are doing. And the big thing about agriculture is not only that there is a need. The big thing is not only that we come with the experience of a country that was born from scratch and had to be a development laboratory. It's not only the need here in India, but it's also the fact that we can do it together. We do not come here as we do not come here with the knowledge of everything. We do not cut and paste what we know to India because there is some adaptation that has to be done. We look, and I hope I'm describing it the right way, we look eye to eye. We do not look from the level of those who know better and the others don't know anything. I hope that this feeling is well transferred because it's something that comes out very natural, I would say. And we look for more and more areas which are areas of joint interest and not areas that come to serve one side and not the other. And in this, I'd like to tell you that we have identified and we are making it a very strong point and a very strong priority. We have identified the large discipline of water. If we talk about development, and development is a word that we hear a lot in the last few months. In development, we encompass agriculture, and we would like to take agriculture one step ahead of what we are doing. Although we have not finished what we are doing with the centers, we already are looking forward to the next stage. Water in all its facets and angles. Water is our next big challenge. It's an issue that touches upon, again, every citizen in every country around the world, but we know it's a big challenge in India. It is, or it was, a big challenge in Israel also. And out of necessity, out of our needs, we have developed quite a lot of technologies, and some of them will be very suitable for India. And as a matter of fact, I certainly hope, and this is what we are looking for, that the big visit, will have an ingredient in the field of water in which we can, together, India and Israel can have a declaration, which is important, an MOU or an agreement, which always comes out, but it will happen or not, but a declaration on a strategic partnership in the field of water. This is what we aspire to. But to declare is not enough. To talk the talk is not enough. We have to walk the walk. And walk the walk means to engage in a few projects that will, in the same way we are doing it in agriculture very successfully, to engage in a few projects that are in need, that would use Israeli technology, Israeli management of water, conservation, recycling, maybe desalination, irrigation. I mean, more crop per drop is an Indian phrase. More crop per drop also uses technology that drip irrigation or sprinkler irrigation. We prefer to talk more about drip irrigation as opposed to flooding, as opposed to canal irrigation. This is something that was invented back in my home in my country a few decades ago and was developed since then. And there are some companies that are already very engaged and some governments that are very engaged in this kind. So it's irrigation and the other different kind of technologies, and even public awareness is something that is very much embedded in our DNA of being aware of the need to save water and to manage water as needed. So when looking at our relations and looking at the table of what Israel and India signify together in their relationship, there is a very important ingredient in development, which has a governmental component, but goes back to each and every citizen in both countries. So I would say agriculture, water, and dairy farming. In dairy farming, we are lucky enough to have one of the best technologies in the world, and both in management and productivity. Another very important asset is innovation. Startup India, Digital India would blend and mix very well, or could blend and should blend and mix very well with the startup nation, Israel. And this is something that we are looking for in various ways, either research and development together, or even having projects together, and this is definitely in the making. And the not last, but if we take it as big clusters, a very important facet of where are we going in our next stage, in our next 25 years, is something very surprising. Not dramatic, but surprising. And this is something that, again, touches each and every one of us, which is how do we take ourselves and know each other better than we know each other now? Because this has been lacking. This has been lacking for many years. I would like to be in a position to bring more scholars to speak about Judaism and about the Jewish people and about the history of the Jewish people, and to have more scholars in Israel to speak about India, modern India, the history of India, what is the nation building of India, it's something that is lacking. We need more tourists. We need more students studying within each other country. We need the role of the diaspora that you have mentioned. What is the role of the diaspora? How do the Jews who, by the way, it's not by the way, a very important element, the Jews in India never suffered from any persecution and no racism, and they were always welcome. This is very unique. How did the Jews who decided How did the Jews who decided for their own reasons to go back to their homeland in Israel, how do they serve as a bridge? This is something that maybe was not neglected, but not known enough to the people both in Israel and in India. A few months ago, we had an exhibition in the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts about the Jews in India. What was the contribution of the Jews in India? We can have various angles of looking at things and having what we call, in a very general term, a people-to-people connect that would bring depth to the relations. And this is a very, very important element. The relations should be sustainable, as they say, should be irreversible, should not be part of regular politics. Politics is part of it, of course, and we will continue to have our political, diplomatic conversation with India, but there is so much more to it, and this is what I feel that we are doing, both governments, both parliaments, both NGOs, the institutions, and think tanks, and media. There's a lot going on, and I'm so glad and so proud of both our countries being engaged in such an important endeavor. I have a lot that I would want to continue sharing with you. I didn't look at the watch, but I guess I overwent what was planned. And even if I didn't, I'd like to leave more space to questions and answers. And maybe in my answers, I will address things that I wanted to take you with from different, as part of my address, if you would like. So I'll be glad to answer. Thank you.
Our partner, the director of the Shah Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation, Dr. Anirban Ganguly, to complete the proceedings.
Your Excellency, I would like to slightly paraphrase it and ask this question. Why is this dawn different from other dawns, this dawn of our relationship? And I think this evening you have amply demonstrated why the dawn is to be a different one. Your repeated reference to the exhibition of Indian Jews was a fascinating one. Having gone through every panel of that exhibition and the inauguration of this symbolic symbol celebrating our 25 years was a unique experience, and I hope that this exhibition in course of the next 1 year travels across India for many more people to have the opportunity of seeing it. It's a very interesting thing. Perhaps 2 generations, mine certainly, grew up reading Ben Gurion, Golda Meir, Moshe Dayan, Begin. And I remember Shimon Peres's wonderful interview where he said, there was a time when every youth in Israel would read Tagore's poetry and be inspired by it. I must thank you from the depth of our hearts for having taken time off and for having come here and set the momentum and set the ball rolling in anticipation of the historic visit of Prime Minister Modi to Israel. Thank you, Your Excellency, for having come here and for having addressed us. I thank Dr. Vijay for his impeccable ideas and planning and for having set this entire idea into action. I obviously, goes without saying, I thank Shri Shakti Sinha, one of the pillars of the SPMRF, as well as the director of Nehru Memorial Library. And last but not the least, all of you today who have gathered here to display, to demonstrate your solidarity with this enduring partnership that is India and Israel's. And I think I must end with the message that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tweeted to Prime Minister Modi, and that was, the people of Israel eagerly await your historic visit. Thank you so much.